Welcome. You've splash landed into this Prosecco-laden podcast, straight into the woo-woo pool with the Crew of Ohm-g. We're just a simple group of tragically imperfect and highly empathic BFFs, exploring a wide range of atypical topics with humor, grace, and curiosity. This is Ohm-g. Welcome, everybody. Today our topic is work and the woo. So check yourself. Are you punching in or are you chilling out, or have you found a way to do both? You are listening to the Crew of Ohm-g,
the podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to talk about, I guess, our spiritual practices, our woo wisdom, and how it meshes with our Muggle jobs, our day jobs. So who wants to go first and give a quirky little example of woo in the workplace? Anyone? Look at all the hands in the air.
Chandra, I think you should, because we talked about that.
Yeah.
I think on Woo Wisdom about how you used it when you were working more in Muggle World.
Yes, in the corporate America.
Right.
And this was even before I kind of embarked on developing of my intuition. In trying to define what my intuition is, I've realized that I'm a channeler, and kind of like hindsight being 2020, looking back, I can see how that manifested itself in my corporate career, because I would get these emails that we all get those emails that are just like, you have to be the biggest idiot. Like, did you really just ask that question?
When everyone's CC'd.
Right, yes, of course. And everyone is CC'd.
Right.
And so, you type the response that you want to say and then immediately delete.
Right.
And I remember that, there were so many instances of I would sit down and I would explain and describe, and I would write this email and I would go back and read it and I'm like, that is good stuff.
Yes.
How did that come from? And then I would send the email and I would get feedback from my peers like, you handled that so well. I would have never handled it that way, or I would have never thought to put that spin on it. And I'm like, thank you. But it's like, it was so not, I felt like it wasn't coming directly from my mind. Like it was
like spirit
channeled from some,
Intuitive typing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, but there were lots and lots of times that I would have a project and I would berate myself for procrastination, but I just could not physically make myself work on the project. I would leave it sit on the corner of my desk. I would look at it every day and my heart would sink into my stomach. I've got to get started on that.
Right.
And it would get down to the last day before, if I don't start this now, it will be late.
Yeah.
And inevitably the project would get canceled. It would get pushed out because the customer wouldn't want it anymore. That happened probably weekly. Whatever I couldn't physically make myself work on would either change in a way that anything I would have done would have been wasted effort. So there's a lot of instances like that where
synchronicities.
Looking back, I know that it was the channeler in me, it expressing itself through my body. I have this one instance where I was sitting there talking to one of the girls that was on my team, and we were talking about a personal issue.
Yeah.
And she was talking about somebody that she had been trying to find from her past history or whatever. And she was just, I've tried this, I've tried the other, and they don't come up in any search. And I'm like, it's because they're not supposed to. You're not supposed to find them yet. It's not time. And then I'm like
reel it back in, girl.
well, but as soon as it came out of my mouth, I realized that didn't process through my brain.
Right.
That just came directly out of my mouth. And she's like, I've never thought about it that way.
Aww.
And it really gave her a sense of peace that when it's time to find them, I will find them.
Right.
So just instances like that where just stuff was coming through my body and not really processing through my brain. And I have come to realize that was the channeler part of my intuition.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I used to kind of work in the corporate world as well with your Muggle job. Do you have anything to kind of add to what Chandra was talking about?
I probably do. And keep in mind, corporate America, we are still in the South here.
Yeah.
That affects a whole lot of the ambiance, so to speak, of the workplace. I have worked with several other managers on a team of people leaders for a large corporation. And the one thing that comes to mind that I keep thinking of, a bunch of us were getting the new year ready, sitting around a table,
figuring out who was going to be off when, all of our PTO time, etc. And there's this one person I used to work with. I would lovingly refer to her as my arch nemesis. Southern, evangelical, big time prayer girl, organized religion. And I was pretty much the opposite. So we're going around the table and checking off our vacation time. And she says to the entire room, well, we know Camille's going to one off on Halloween, don't we? I always took Halloween off. Special day in my book. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. Go ahead and put me down. And she keeps on going. So you have a meeting in the woods? What's going on? Actually, yes, I do. And your name might come up. And those eyes got as big as saucers. And I didn't hear another word.
Yes, Camille.
But things like that. I'm not going to come out and, start shaking my woo-woo voodoo ass because some people called me voodoo, believe it or not, in front of the entire office. But little things like that happened quite frequently.
Yeah. You're like voodoo light.
I am.
Very
Why
light.
would they think that?
Like almost like LaCroix. It's not a flavor. It's just like it whispered that flavor in a room. Like, orange, and it's just like, I feel the hint of it there, but not.
It's just flavor. It puts me in the mind of
Exactly.
Wow. And I would get questions, of course, out loud in these meetings with multiple people. Well, okay, so if you don't like organized religion, so how is someone supposed to raise their children with morals without that? Can you speak to that? Why, yes, I can.
Don't fucking have children. I'm sorry I spoke to that. I'm just kidding.
And those things were going through my mind.
Right.
But, I handled it with tact and grace and diplomacy because I have Mercury in Libra, but that's another episode. Anyway, so those kinds of things happen fairly frequently. And otherwise, I was able to keep a foot in each field, so to speak, and go about doing my work.
Yeah.
I was kind of like the flip side of that coin. I never really had those kind of issues come up with people, but I'm an introvert, believe it or not. So like my office was like my sanctuary.
Yeah.
Like I could go in there, and even though we didn't have doors or whatever, you could kind of like angle things so that, it's like, I would like to be left alone right now. But inevitably people would gravitate to my pod because I was the one that had the crystals and the selenite tower and everybody would say, but it just feels so good in here.
Right.
Like, they would come in there to cool off, calm down, regroup, and so I kind of was like the safe space.
The Zen leader.
Yeah, my area was the Zen garden for everybody else, it felt like.
Exactly.
So I think we're going to take a quick break and we'll hop on back in just a few minutes. Go get yourself a glass of whatever your favorite beverage is and join us again soon.
Hi, this is Chandra. Brenda and I would like to invite you as part of our podcast community to join us on either Facebook or Instagram Live each Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern U.S. time, where we give free oracle readings for fans of the show. Just follow us on our OMG Podcast Facebook or Instagram page. You can post or DM us your questions there each week with the hashtag WooWooWisdom, and then tune in at 11 a.m. each Friday on our page to watch your free reading. If you can't join us live, don't worry. You can always catch it on the replay. This is just our way of saying thank you for being part of our woo-woo family. Hope to see you this Friday.
A lot can happen in the next 3 years. Like a chatbot may be your new best friend. But what won't change? Needing health insurance. United Healthcare Tri-Term Medical Plans are available for these changing times. Underwritten by Golden Rule Insurance Company, they offer budget-friendly, flexible coverage for people who are in between jobs or missed open enrollment. The plans last nearly 3 years in some states, with access to a nationwide network of doctors and hospitals. So for whatever tomorrow brings, United Healthcare Tri-Term Medical Plans may be for you. Learn more at uh1.com.
Welcome back, guys. We enjoyed our short little refresh break. And I thought I would talk to both things because currently I am working in the woo and also working a muggle job. And it's interesting because once you start talking about some of your woo stuff with the people that you work with, they open up and want to talk about it too. So I work with a woman and we've talked about some stuff, and she's very intuitive and in tuned and gets messages and, sees it a little bit differently than I do, but it's all the same thing. Mm-hmm. She and I have had a lot of really deep discussions about spirituality and messages and spirits and all of that kind of stuff. So you can incorporate it into your own, your Muggle world too. But also, I work in the spiritual field as well, doing energy healing and mediumship, and Chandra and I doing our woo Fridays.
Wisdom. Join us Fridays. Carry on.
Yeah, so I'm kind of balancing both things, and I don't know what I think about it. Like, I don't know if I would want to do just 100% one way, like doing all woo.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't want to do all Muggle world.
Yeah.
So I like having that chance to dip into the spiritual world once a day or a couple times a week or however many times I have appointments, and to connect in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Alexandra, why don't you talk about your experience? Because you work in Muggle World now.
I have had some different experiences in saying that I worked in higher ed academia. First, when I was going to college, I was a student worker in an admissions office. And this was coming off, if you heard our last episode, I had talked about, my dad and, what he said about, anything was better than being a pagan. And I really took that to heart, and I kind of shoved and hid that part of myself, and it became a chip on my shoulder. So when I was working in admissions as an undergrad and a graduate student, I really didn't let that part of myself come out. So it just kind of felt like I was cut off from a piece of myself. Like I wasn't truly fully who I was. And I would have to agree with Brenda saying that I don't think I would be happy working 100% in either which world. I think a balance is required for me. And so after my graduate degree, I moved down to North Carolina, and I took a little break because I'd gone straight through school and needed a little bit of a mental space. And so then I started looking for a job, and I ended up with one at where I currently work now, again, also in higher ed, and as a staff member in a academic unit. I didn't hide it this time, and I wasn't like letting my woo flag fly. So like if people figured out what my necklace meant, good for them. I didn't have to tell them. And then over the time I've been working there, I've been a lot more comfortable just saying stuff that feels more natural to me instead of mincing my words or like having to cover it up in a way that's more presentable to other people. And so people now will come chat to me about stuff. They're like, I've had it's like, hey, what's going on with, astrology, or like we in a retrograde, and we'll chat about that. And, cool. I'm like, oh, this is what's going on, or like, this is what I understand it. You might want to take a moment to step back, refresh, instead of, plunge forward with something. And then, or we'll talk about spirituality or thought. And, I've had one of my coworkers, she's like, I just love the way you look at the world. She's like, it's so open and it's so optimistic in some ways, which is funny because I would describe myself as a jaded optimistic.
What a compliment for someone else to see you that way.
Yeah. And she's like, well, I never thought about something like this way, because we were talking about like the Christian Bible, and she's rereading the Bible. So I love, she always comes in my office. She's like, okay, I got to tell you what I read. And I was like, okay, cool. And the way she talks about the Bible, it's hilarious. I was like, you have to start like a YouTube channel or something and just teach people the Bible this way, because it's
possible guest.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
That would be fun.
But since I've become a lot more comfortable in my own skin with this, that it's helped me approach things in a lot of way without it shoving my spirituality in other people's faces, or the complete opposite and hiding it so far myself that it's just people will come chat with me, or like, it's just really nice. And I've discovered other people who are like, also, like one of my coworkers, she does Reiki, and I was like, and I only noticed, I was like, oh, those are some beautiful crystals. Is that like lapis lazuli? Is that tiger sand? She's like, yeah, it's my chakra set. And we got talking about it, and I was like, oh, hello. So we, it's very nice to surprise people that way.
Make those connections.
Well, it's just like any other belief, as long as you're respectful of others, and then, then it brings back the respect to you. You don't have to shove it in anyone's face or be blatant about it. You just set your little Selene tower, on the corner of your desk, and let the people gravitate that want to gravitate.
Yeah, that's what I always say about me being Amish. Stop pushing your electricity on me, people. I'm just kidding. On that note, Ro, do you have any stories about working in the woo?
You can talk about your last job, what you had to do there.
Oh, my last job? Yeah, so I had...
your last job.
The last...
That you thought you left a crystal underneath the chair.
I did.
Ooh.
So I worked in an office job, and the energy was kind of
Mm-hmm.
And so I was slowly sneaking my crystals in because
I just see you as like a little swiper, no swiping with your duffel bag, and like do and like putting Citrine under a seat.
I see her leaning over at her desk, like pulling the
hours
off.
Coughing out an onyx on your boss's desk.
Yeah, so this was definitely sneak your crystals into the workplace for protection, soul protection.
I love that, Rose.
But so when I was in this office space, I just could not keep a thought, and I was like, "Oh my, there's so many." Okay, so my office was above a restaurant. So the energy coming out of that restaurant, all the different people in and out constantly. And so I honestly believe that's probably the cause of I could not concentrate.
Yeah.
So I actually taped a piece of fluorite under my chair to help keep me.
Surprise, cleaning crew.
To help me concentrate. And I had a couple of little crystals on my desk, but one of them was in the form of a horse. It was just a little carved horse, but it was
oh, cute.
It's what they call a statue.
It was my little horse statue. But
they walk by and go, "Oh, Ro likes horses, yay!"
And they said it just like that,
So
like from Mice and Men.
I really had to fly under the radar at this last job, but I would definitely wear my chakra bracelet every day, and I would adorn myself with all my protection stones. Majority of the time it was black onyx for protection. Seriously, but yeah, if I would have brought up the fact that I was.
No one needs a drink. Just carry on.
Sorry.
That was Aaron.
So yeah, important. And actually, when Brenda and I were walking in the woods the other day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I left my fluorite taped underneath my chair. I wonder if they discovered it yet.
So I just have this flash of like some random person sitting in that chair going, "Why am I not able to concentrate like this at home? Why am I so focused at
My
work?"
booty feels so clear.
Y'all, I think we need to don all black and army crawl into that office and retrieve it.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think it's
Okay,
doing
I
somebody some good. So.
You should do that, and we'll film it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm up for that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so in that last job, I don't think I ever want to go back into the Muggle World. The Muggle World. Full time. Definitely not. I think this stage in my life is more going to be geared towards the woo world.
And the things that bring joy to your soul.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. My soul needs the joy.
I see that too. I really feel like your trip out to California is going to be transformative for you, and on a really deep level that you may not fully get until you get back and start to integrate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And some quality time with my parents. And I also grew up in that Catholic world. Nothing wrong with it. It gave me a good set of values. We were talking about like what Camille's, thing.
She has morality.
Because she grew up in the church.
Because someone
And repression, but that's another episode.
Questioned how she was going to raise her children with morals and things like that. But that's just freaking common sense, people. You teach them right from wrong, and this is good, this is bad, kind of thing. You honestly,
right?
Whatever you pick.
If you follow that Jesus angle, I don't care what religion you are, you kind of can't go wrong.
But Jesus is an ascended master, so
right. He was hanging with the prostitutes and high-fiving Mama Beaver as she made her banana salad on Easter with her hang'em, okay? And if you haven't listened to our Easter episode, please go back and listen, because I still think it's one of our funniest.
Granny Beaver would have crocheted some purdies for Jesus had she met him. Because they were all over her house.
Yes.
Yeah, she was close.
Speaking of, this is not related to the woo, but or work, but I'll get to both those in just a second with my experiences and stories. But I've realized, so those of you listening to the podcast, my husband and I recently just bought a house.
Yay!
Super excited. But so I'm going to set up a space. There's going to be a whole room that's just going to be mine. And I'm going to set it up as like a little office workspace, library, meditation
with
area with dog beds, of course. And I think I'm going to take up knitting. I know.
I like crocheting myself because I can't handle 2 needles.
You can't handle. I just see myself just sitting there listening to podcasts or audiobooks or Lana Del Rey.
We're all getting black onesies for Christmas. I can see it now.
Oh my God, I'm going to make everyone, black onesies. That would be really cute.
If you need stuff,
give me your sizes.
You let me know and I'll get you started because we have a bunch of knitting
Oh my God. Don't
XL, extra voluptuous for me.
That's right. So anyways, why did we just talk about that?
You
don't know, but we're talking about your experiences with Woo in the workplace.
Yes, thank you.
I think we need some of Rose fluorite here.
Yes, we do, for memory. Yeah, as Camille would always say, I digress. So I got my first job at 15 with a worker's permit. That's right. And it was at Chick-fil-A. And so for those of you, I think that's a
Lord's chicken.
Girl,
Jesus chicken.
Them's the Lord's calories. They don't count. They don't count.
Not even that lemonade.
No, ma'am. Ooh.
Sweet from the heavens.
Oh, it is. It's the nectar of the gods.
Anyway.
But
coffee is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, coffee is. But anyways, I worked at Chick-fil-A for longer than I should have. And then worked tons of different retail restaurant jobs throughout college. I was a teaching assistant in the media studies department in grad school. Worked at the Coliseum for 3 shifts. I went to 3 different concerts and was like, no. Not for me. Worked in insurance for a little bit. Brenda, Sujin, Jolene, fifth and
that girl over there?
Yes, that girl over there. Actually was moving into another job herself. And she was like, hey, this seems like it'd be a good job for you to work with your school schedule. And so I was a little, what were we called? A personal marketing assistant.
Was that it?
I think so. It was something about marketing, which
was the most boring job I have
Oh
had.
my God.
So you were a PMA?
I was a PMA.
Oh,
not a PMS, PMA. And it was boring, but it was very easy. When he would go out of town, I would just sit there and read books, for 4 hours and get paid for it. Hello, you know what I mean? Can we cheers to that? Talk about a Muggle job. And yeah, did all sorts of different little odds and end type jobs. But obviously now, we talked about in many episodes, I'm a teacher. And so you have to be careful about the woo, because not that it's it can be a religion or whatever, but
it's the way you're talking. It's almost like the parents will peep every now and then about something.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes, 100%. So
Wow.
there's, intuitively I can tell which kids I can talk to about stuff like that are like-minded, right? And so there was a girl last year, I adored her, and she went to, I think she was from Durham originally, her and her family. And so we were talking about crystals one day because I had a little necklace and I think maybe a bracelet that Ro had made me or something for Christmas. And she's like, oh, I love that. Is that tiger's eye? And I was like, yeah, it is. I don't know. We started talking about crystals and she was like, that's so cool. And she came back after winter break and she had a little baggie of 3 different crystals she had gotten me at the little crystal shop.
So sweet.
It was so sweet. I was like, oh my God, Di, this is the sweetest gift I've ever gotten. She was like, for real? They're only $10. I'm like, I know, honey.
Sentimentality.
Exactly. So anyways, and I was talking to Christian today and I was like, I think that because school's about to start, I'm going into my 5th year of teaching. Womp womp. And I was like, I think I want to set my students by their astrological signs.
I used to do that at work.
Did you? Okay. Yeah. Very.
My agents, yes.
And Christian said, I think it's a cool idea. Be very careful how you phrase that.
Yes.
Tell people if they ask that you're seating students by their birth date. Because and I was like, wow, that's a really good practical point, Mr. Took the LSAT and you know what I mean? Just very totally Gemini, different brains than my Sagittarius sun and my Scorpio moon self. But yeah, so I think that I do guided meditations in my English classes sometimes at the beginning. We'll do journal writings where we self-reflect about stuff and read poetry. And my husband teaches at the same school that I do. So during our planning periods, we give each other bathroom breaks. And he, over the summer, described me to a friend in a way that just really hit me. I was like, wow, that's accurate. And so I teach English. He's very strict rule follower, lays down the law with the kids, loves the kids. He's great with them. They're great
But there
with
are
him.
rules.
There are rules, procedures, expectations.
Clearly defined boundaries.
Clear.
It's for his own protection.
Oh,
I
it
get
absolutely
that.
is.
I get that.
But with me, I'm the other teachers on my team joke that I'm the therapist. So whenever kids have issues, they send them to my room. Sometimes kids will come into my room, and it's interesting when we talk about sacred spaces. Not that my classroom is sacred. You sage the hell out of her.
Sacred chaos.
Exactly. But that's where they like to come and, whatever. And so he jokes that when he comes into my room, he's like, you feel like a 50-50 mix between an art teacher and a home ec teacher, but you teach English that has all this stress and data and literacy stuff, and you're a tested subject and whatever. But the kids he said, I'm waiting to come in one day and them have you just tied up in a corner. but I don't feel, it's like,
don't tempt me with good time.
hey, don't you have a good time? Hey, yeah. But it's like a managed chaos, I think, for me. And I carry crystals in my pocket to work.
Are you ever afraid of, like, if you go to the restroom, and maybe this is just a girl problem, you'll just come flying
When you drop your
across
drawers
the
and the
floor?
crystals go flying?
Yeah.
So no, but I think that part of that, which is like fucked up in like the gendered world that we live in and like capitalism, women's pockets are like
Micro
2 inches,
pockets,
yes.
right? I wore quote unquote girl jeans in high school for like a year. Because I thought I was
Like, I can't
edgy.
fit anything
And
in
yeah, I
here.
couldn't fit my phone. My chapstick barely fit, right? So like in men's pockets, I mean, they're down like to my fucking kneecaps, you know? So they'll fit a phone, crystals, a planner, my sandwich, you know, like it's not a problem. So I don't have that fear, but I do truly empathize because I've been there before.
This is why I buy only American Eagle jeans, because, you know, those women's pockets
I hate the
actually
fake pockets. Yes.
I have a pair
This-
of work pants that the back pocket looks like a pocket, and then it's just a joke.
I have a confession. I actually bought men's pants and jeans at Costco because
Good.
the pockets
Of the practicality.
Hello. Yes.
So if you're listening and you just
Yes.
happen to work for a company that makes jeans, make
women
them.
need bigger
Pockets.
pockets
Yes.
and more pockets, and dresses need pockets. Thank you.
There you go.
Placed in a way on the hiney that makes you look curvy, not flat. Anyway.
Amen. Yeah, so I think that I just have to be kind of like careful. I have to walk a thin line in my field of work because separation of the church and the state.
Like that exists.
Like that exists, yeah.
Yeah.
As we stand up to the pledge. One nation under God, indivisible. You know, so, and we're starting that again this year.
And that wasn't original either. Just as a side note.
Right.
One Nation Under God was not the original.
Right.
I want y'all to know that throughout elementary school, this is one of those things where you hear one thing and say another. I said the Pledge of Allegiance, and to the Republic for which is stands.
Amen.
One nation under God. What is a stand for a witch? I don't know, but by gosh, my hand was on my heart and I spoke to it
Amen.
up to 6th grade until I read it.
One
Wow.
nation
For
under
witches
Yeah,
stands.
wow.
Excellent.
One nation under Republicans for witches stand. You know, I'm just kidding. Whoever,
Yeah.
I don't care what party you're a part of. Or what
Well,
you
we
believe,
care a
but-
little. Anyway.
Exactly. So is there, I know this might be a lengthy episode, but is there maybe a quick story kind of in closing anyone wants to share about like a job that sort of led them or pushed them out? I know we've talked about with guests before, like, I got to get out of this in order to kind of follow my spiritual path.
Chandra.
Well, actually,
Okay.
by starting to develop my intuition, the person who was my mentor actually ended up asking me to come work for her part-time as a virtual assistant, just you know, managing Zoom calls and creating Facebook groups and that kind of thing. And I was still working my corporate job at the time. And this was just kind of like a little moonlighting, you know, side hustle kind of thing. And I'd been a client, a student of hers, and I was
What an honor.
yeah, absolutely, for her to think of me to come work for her. And that job has now, and she is an intuitive teacher, obviously, she was my mentor. And that job has now grown and allowed me to quit my corporate job. So the woo kind of led me out of that toxic environment. So, it was, I missed the salary, not gonna lie.
Sure.
But more days than not, I feel like it was like divine intervention. Like it was
Because you're in your safe space working there.
Able to work from, completely from home, completely remote.
Yes.
She's in a different part of the country. So the hours are like, different. So I get to kind of make my own hours, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really, really flexible. Very, very, very good situation to be in. I was very lucky. Felt very blessed with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Bravo.
amazing.
Excellent.
So those of you listening, whether you're working or wooing or both, make sure that you take care of yourself and as always listen to your intuition because it's going to push you in the right direction of where you need to be, whether it's providing an income or providing you sanity.
Absolutely.
And on that note, if you like and support this content and want to help us in our journey in the woo, please go ahead and donate to us at our Buy Us a Bottle page, which is linked on our website. Like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and drop us a comment on our website. We'd love to get to know you. All right.
Till next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. It's so easy to do and such a huge help for us. We appreciate your interactions so much. Want to join us at our table? Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and join our Facebook community. If you've enjoyed this content and wish to support us, take a look at our Patreon page. All information and links will be in our podcast description. Catch you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.